Analyzing the impact of Fujian's deployment on global trade routes, expected disruptions in shipping and logistics by mid-2025. Date: January 23, 2025. As we enter 2025, the landscape of global trade is poised for significant transformation influenced by multiple factors including geopolitical tensions, evolving trade policies, labor disputes, and seasonal disruptions. This report synthesizes key insights into expected disruptions in shipping and logistics, particularly in the context of Fujian's strategic deployment, which is anticipated to exacerbate existing challenges. Key disruptive factors. 1. Changing trade policies and tariffs. The global trade environment is undergoing a seismic shift driven by new tariffs and trade policies. Notably, the European Union recently imposed a 35.5% tariff on electric vehicles imported from China, a move that signifies the increasing protectionist stance among major economies. This is indicative of a broader trend, as shifting political landscapes globally may lead to a cascade of tariff adjustments that could complicate supply chains. Shippers are responding to these changes by diversifying their supply chains, a trend that has accelerated since the COVID-19 pandemic. For instance, there has been a marked decrease in imports from China to the US, down 8% from 2017 to 2023, with shippers increasingly sourcing goods from Southeast Asia, Mexico, and other regions. 2. Labor strikes. Labor unrest is surging, with reports indicating a 280% increase in strikes from 2023 to 2024. The potential for a second U.S. port strike in January 2025 looms, which could significantly impact industries that rely on just-in-time inventory models such as automotive and pharmaceuticals. Unresolved contract negotiations between the International Longshoremen's Association (ILA) and the U.S. Maritime Alliance (USMX) are contributing to increased uncertainty, with the possibility of disruptions leading to heightened congestion and costs at ports. 3. Geopolitical conflicts. Geopolitical tensions, particularly stemming from the ongoing war in Ukraine and unrest in the Middle East, are forcing shipping routes to adapt. Airspace restrictions and longer shipping routes due to conflicts have strained logistics, further complicating the already fragile supply chain landscape. The persistence of these tensions could lead to additional route adjustments, negatively impacting shipping schedules and capacity. 4. Chinese New Year CNY disruptions. The approaching Chinese New Year, commencing on January 29, 2025, is expected to cause significant factory shutdowns across China, leading to increased demand for freight services in the weeks prior. This rush to fulfill orders before the holiday is likely to result in shipping delays, heightened costs, and port congestion. After the holiday, businesses may also face backlogs as production resumes at a slower pace. 5. E-commerce growth. The relentless growth of e-commerce continues to exert pressure on air freight capacity, causing shifts that affect other shipping lanes. Robust demand from Asia is driving air freight rates higher, complicating logistics for smaller volume lanes. The ongoing transition of air capacity to accommodate e-commerce shipments is a trend that is expected to persist, necessitating strategic adjustments in logistics planning. Strategies for mitigation. To navigate these anticipated disruptions, shippers are encouraged to adopt proactive strategies. Key recommendations include proactive planning. Early order placement and building inventory buffers are essential to mitigate CNY disruptions and tariff implications. Diversification, utilizing alternative shipping modes, e.g., shifting from ocean to air freight and sourcing from varied regions, can enhance resilience. Constant communication, maintaining open lines of communication with logistics partners can facilitate timely adjustments in response to delays and disruptions. Timeline of events. 2023, significant increases in labor strikes noted across multiple countries. Late 2023, geopolitical tensions escalate, particularly related to the Ukraine conflict, impacting global shipping routes. Early 2024, implementation of tariff changes, including the EU's tariff on electric vehicles, prompting shifts in trade dynamics. January 2025, anticipated U.S. port strike and CNY disruptions expected to strain supply chains significantly. Conclusion: the shipping and logistics landscape is evolving rapidly, driven by a combination of tariffs, labor unrest, geopolitical tensions, and seasonal disruptions. The deployment strategies emanating from Fujian are expected to further complicate these dynamics. Emphasizing supply chain agility and diversification is critical for businesses aiming to navigate this complex environment effectively. As the interplay of these factors continues to shape global trade, businesses must remain vigilant and adaptable to meet the challenges ahead. This report highlights the interconnectedness of global trade dynamics and underscores the importance of strategic planning and flexibility in supply chain management as we approach mid-2025. The anticipated disruptions in global shipping and logistics by mid-2025 due to various factors, including labor strikes, changing trade policies, geopolitical conflicts, and seasonal disruptions, present a complex landscape for international shippers. Here are some counterintuitive insights drawn from the provided content. 1. E-commerce growth versus capacity constraints. While the growth of e-commerce is generally seen as a positive trend, it paradoxically leads to increased air freight rates and reduced capacity on smaller shipping lanes. This is because airlines are increasingly reallocating their resources to meet the high demand for e-commerce shipments, which can create bottlenecks for other types of freight. This suggests that a booming sector can inadvertently harm logistics efficiency across the board. 2. Labor strikes as a catalyst for proactive change. The significant rise in labor strikes, 280% increase noted from 2023 to 2024, could be perceived as a purely negative disruption. However, this unrest has prompted shippers to adopt more proactive strategies, such as diversifying their supply chains and employing alternate logistics methods. Thus, while labor strikes disrupt operations, they may also stimulate long-term resilience and adaptability within supply chains. 3. Tariff increases leading to diversification. The expectation of new tariffs, particularly on imports from China, could lead to an immediate increase in costs and supply chain disruptions. However, this situation has already prompted many companies to diversify their supply sources, reducing reliance on a single country. The counterintuitive aspect here is that while tariffs typically signal increased costs, they can also serve as a catalyst for businesses to innovate and adapt their sourcing strategies. 4. Chinese New Year as a double-edged sword. The Chinese New Year CNY is typically viewed as a predictable disruption due to factory shutdowns. However, the rush to fulfill orders before the holiday can lead to increased shipping costs and congestion, which may not align with the typical expectation that companies should prepare for this disruption. The heightened demand for freight space can create a scenario where preparation doesn't necessarily equate to reduced risk. 5. Geopolitical tensions driving new shipping routes. Ongoing geopolitical conflicts such as the war in Ukraine and tensions in the Middle East are expected to disrupt established shipping routes. However, these disruptions could lead to the emergence of alternative routes, such as the new port of Chancay in Peru, which could reduce shipping times significantly. This highlights a counterintuitive opportunity where disruptions could result in innovations that enhance logistics efficiency rather than merely causing setbacks. 6. Front-loading as a normalized strategy. The act of front-loading freight shippers, increasing orders ahead of potential disruptions, is not a new concept, as evidenced by its use during past tariff implementations. The counterintuitive insight here is that this strategy, which aims to mitigate risk, has now become a common approach across a broad range of shippers, indicating a shift from reactive to proactive supply chain management practices as a standard operating procedure. 7. Supply chain agility versus complexity. As companies emphasize supply chain agility to navigate disruptions, the complexity of managing diverse sourcing, shipping methods, and logistics partners increases. This presents a paradox. In striving for flexibility and resilience, businesses may inadvertently create more intricate supply chains that could become harder to manage, leading to potential inefficiencies. 8. The role of communication in crisis management. Constant communication with logistics partners is emphasized as crucial for navigating disruptions. The counterintuitive aspect here lies in the fact that while companies may view communication as a straightforward requirement, the complexity and nuances of supply chain dynamics require a deep understanding of interdependencies that are often overlooked until a crisis occurs. In summary, while the challenges facing global trade routes by mid-2025 are significant, they also present opportunities for shippers to rethink and reshape their logistics strategies in ways that could lead to greater resilience and efficiency in the long term. The interplay of disruption and innovation is highlighted in these counterintuitive insights. Underscores the need for adaptive strategies in an increasingly complex global trade environment. The report on the impact of Fujian's deployment on global trade routes outlines various significant disruptions expected in shipping and logistics by mid-2025. While many readers may focus on the most apparent challenges such as labor strikes, tariff increases, and geopolitical conflicts, there are critical elements of the report that are often overlooked yet hold substantial significance for future supply chain dynamics. Here are some of those overlooked insights and their implications. 1. Changing trade policies and tariffs. While the report highlights specific tariff changes such as the 35.5% tariff on imported electric vehicles from China by the EU, the broader implications of changing trade policies are often underestimated. The potential for cascading tariff adjustments as new governments come to power can significantly alter trade flows, creating a ripple effect across multiple industries and regions. Significance. The ongoing trend of reshoring and diversifying supply chains is not just a reaction to tariffs but also a strategic move to mitigate risks associated with unpredictable trade policies. Companies that do not proactively adapt to these shifts may find themselves unable to compete, facing increased costs or even supply shortages. The ability to pivot and adapt quickly will be essential for maintaining competitiveness in an increasingly volatile trade environment. 2. Labor strikes and their broader implications. The report notes a staggering 280% increase in labor strikes from 2023 to 2024 and highlights the potential for a second U.S. port strike in January 2025. However, the broader implications of these labor disruptions are often overlooked. The interconnectedness of supply chains means that disruptions at one point can have cascading effects throughout the system. Significance. For industries reliant on just-in-time inventory models, even short labor strikes can lead to significant operational challenges, including production halts and increased costs. Companies must consider not only the immediate impact of strikes but also the long-term effects on supplier relationships and inventory management. Developing contingency plans and diversifying supplier bases can help mitigate these risks. 3. Geopolitical conflicts impacting logistics. The report discusses how the war in Ukraine and unrest in the Middle East have led to longer shipping routes and increased logistics strain. However, the significance of these geopolitical factors extends beyond immediate logistical challenges. Significance. Geopolitical tensions can create long-term shifts in trade alliances and logistics strategies. For instance, airspace restrictions may lead to permanent route adjustments that affect shipping costs and timelines. Companies should not only prepare for immediate disruptions but also consider how to build resilience against ongoing geopolitical instability. This may involve diversifying shipping routes and developing relationships with logistics providers who can navigate these complexities. For Chinese New Year CNY disruptions. The report notes the significant impact of CNY on global supply chains, including factory shutdowns and increased freight demand. However, the long-term implications of these seasonal disruptions are frequently underestimated. Significance. The CNY holiday is a recurring event that can lead to predictable disruptions, yet many companies fail to adequately prepare. By understanding the cyclical nature of CNY disruptions, businesses can develop year-round strategies to build inventory buffers and secure freight capacity in advance. This proactive planning can prevent stockouts and maintain operational efficiency during peak holiday seasons. 5. E-commerce growth and its complications. The report highlights the ongoing pressure from e-commerce on air freight capacity, which can lead to increased rates and reduced availability for smaller volume lanes. However, the broader implications of e-commerce growth for supply chain dynamics are often overlooked. Significance: the rapid growth of e-commerce is fundamentally changing logistics requirements and capacity utilization across all modes of transport. Companies must adapt their logistics strategies to accommodate not only increased demand but also shifts in consumer behavior. Understanding these trends can lead to better planning and investment in logistics capabilities that align with the direction of the market. Ensuring that companies remain competitive and responsive to consumer needs. 6. The importance of proactive communication and collaboration. While the report emphasizes the need for proactive planning and communication with logistics partners, the depth of this recommendation goes unexamined in many discussions. Significance: effective communication and collaboration can significantly reduce the impact of disruptions. Companies that engage in open dialogue with their logistics providers are better positioned to adapt to unexpected challenges. These relationships can foster innovation and flexibility, allowing for quicker responses to changing conditions. Furthermore, collaboration can lead to shared insights that improve overall supply chain visibility, enabling companies to make more informed decisions. 7. Long-term supply chain agility. The report concludes with the need for supply chain agility, yet the continuous development of this agility is often under-discussed. Significance: agility is not a one-time project but a continuous process that requires ongoing investment in technology training and strategic partnerships. Companies must commit to regularly assessing and refining their supply chain strategies in response to evolving market conditions and disruptions. This long-term perspective on agility can help organizations remain resilient and competitive in a rapidly changing global landscape. Conclusion: the anticipated disruptions in shipping and logistics due to Fujian's deployment and other global factors present significant challenges for businesses as they approach mid-2025. However, by recognizing and addressing the overlooked aspects of these disruptions, companies can better prepare for the future. Emphasizing proactive planning, understanding the broader implications of geopolitical and market changes, and fostering collaborative relationships within the supply chain will be crucial for navigating the complexities of global trade effectively. Companies that prioritize these factors will be better positioned to adapt and thrive in an increasingly uncertain environment. 1. Changing trade policies and tariffs. The anticipated shifts in global trade dynamics are expected to be significantly impacted by the introduction of new tariffs, such as the EU's 35.5% tariff on imported electric vehicles from China. This trend signifies a potential cascade of tariff adjustments as new political leadership across various countries takes office. As a result, shippers are likely to further diversify their supply chains, moving away from heavy reliance on Chinese imports and seeking alternatives in Southeast Asia, Mexico, and other regions. This ongoing shift suggests a need for adaptive strategies to mitigate risks associated with increased costs and potential supply chain disruptions. 2. Labor strikes, the surge in labor unrest. Exemplified by a 280% increase in strikes from 2023 to 2024, poses a significant threat to shipping and logistics. The looming possibility of a U.S. port strike in January 2025 could severely disrupt industries reliant on just-in-time inventory models, particularly in sectors like automotive and pharmaceuticals. This potential for unrest, coupled with unresolved contract negotiations between labor unions and maritime alliances, could lead to increased congestion and costs, emphasizing the importance of contingency planning and flexible supply chain strategies for shippers. 3. Geopolitical conflicts. Ongoing geopolitical tensions, particularly stemming from the war in Ukraine and increased unrest in the Middle East, have drastically altered shipping routes and logistics. Airspace restrictions and longer shipping routes have emerged as a direct consequence of these conflicts, further complicating global logistics and straining capacity. These geopolitical factors not only disrupt shipping schedules but also contribute to greater uncertainty in global trade, highlighting the need for shippers to remain agile and responsive to changes in the geopolitical landscape. For Chinese New Year CNY disruptions, the Chinese New Year holiday set to begin on January 29, 2025 will lead to significant factory shutdowns and heightened freight demand, exacerbating existing supply chain challenges. The period preceding CNY typically sees a rush to fulfill orders, resulting in increased shipping costs and potential delays due to congestion at ports. Following the holiday, businesses may also face backlogs as factories ramp up production. To mitigate these impacts, shippers are advised to proactively plan by placing orders early, building inventory buffers, and securing freight space in advance, ensuring continuity in their supply chains despite the seasonal disruptions. 1. The 1916 U-boat campaign and its impact on global trade. During World War I, Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare significantly disrupted global shipping routes. The campaign targeted merchant vessels, leading to a dramatic increase in shipping costs and insurance premiums. This disruption forced countries, particularly Britain, to rethink their supply chains and logistics strategies as they sought to secure alternative routes and shipping methods. The campaign highlighted the vulnerabilities of maritime trade and the need for nations to adapt to geopolitical shifts similar to the anticipated disruptions in global trade due to the Fujian's deployment and other factors by mid-2025. 2. The 1973 oil crisis and supply chain disruptions. The 1973 oil crisis, triggered by an OPEC oil embargo, caused a dramatic increase in oil prices and led to widespread economic turmoil. This crisis resulted in significant disruptions in shipping and logistics as countries struggled with fuel shortages and rising transportation costs. Companies had to adapt quickly, seeking alternative energy sources and revising their supply chains to mitigate the impacts of the crisis. The shift in trade dynamics during this period parallels the expected changes in global trade routes and logistics strategies as outlined for mid-2025. 3. The COVID-19 pandemic and its disruption of global supply chains. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 caused unprecedented disruptions to global trade and logistics. Lockdowns and restrictions led to port closures, labor shortages, and significant delays in shipping. Businesses had to pivot quickly to adapt to these changes, implementing new strategies such as diversifying supply sources, increasing inventory buffers, and utilizing alternative shipping methods. Similar to the anticipated disruptions related to the Fujian's deployment, the pandemic underscored the critical need for flexibility and resilience in global supply chains. Future outlook: analyzing the impact of Fujian's deployment on global trade routes and expected disruptions in shipping and logistics by mid-2025. As we move toward mid-2025, the global shipping and logistics landscape is under significant pressure from a confluence of factors: geopolitical tensions, trade policy shifts, labor unrest, seasonal disruptions, and the ongoing rise of e-commerce. The deployment strategies emerging from Fujian province in China will play a crucial role in shaping these dynamics, particularly in terms of global trade routes and supply chain resilience. Key predictions for mid-2025. 1. Increased tariff friction. The recent imposition of tariffs, such as the EU's 35.5% tariff on imported electric vehicles from China, signals a trend that is likely to continue. As new governments take office and political agendas shift globally, we can expect more tariff adjustments that will complicate existing trade relationships. Businesses must prepare for a more fragmented trading environment, necessitating diversification of sourcing and logistics strategies to mitigate potential cost increases. 2. Labor unrest and port disruptions. With a dramatic increase in labor strikes, 280% from 2023 to 2024, shipping operations could face severe disruptions. The unresolved contract negotiations between the International Longshoremen's Association (ILA) and the U.S. Maritime Alliance could lead to significant port strikes, particularly in the U.S. ports along the East and Gulf coasts. Such disruptions will strain supply chains heavily reliant on just-in-time inventory models, particularly in industries like automotive and pharmaceuticals. 3. Geopolitical tensions and route adjustments. Ongoing conflicts, notably the war in Ukraine and rising tensions in the Middle East, will continue to impact global shipping routes. Carriers may be compelled to avoid certain airspaces or alter their maritime routes, leading to longer transit times and increased shipping costs. The emergence of new trade routes such as those facilitated by the port of Chancay in Peru may provide alternative pathways but will also shift existing logistics patterns. 4. Chinese New Year's CNY disruptions. The CNY holiday beginning January 29, 2025 is expected to exacerbate shipping delays as factories in China shut down, leading to a surge in freight demand prior to the holiday. This will result in port congestion and increased shipping costs affecting global supply chains. Companies will need to anticipate these disruptions by planning orders well in advance and building inventory buffers. 5. E-commerce surge and air freight capacity. The explosive growth of e-commerce is driving demand for air freight, particularly for goods shipped from Asia. This trend will lead to heightened competition for air cargo capacity, increasing rates and complicating logistics for smaller volume lanes. As e-commerce continues to expand, businesses must adapt their logistics strategies to prioritize urgent shipments while balancing costs. Strategies for mitigation. To navigate the anticipated disruptions effectively, businesses must adopt proactive strategies. Diversification of supply chains. Companies should look to diversify their sourcing and logistics networks beyond traditional reliance on China, exploring alternative markets in Southeast Asia, Mexico, and beyond. This will enhance resilience against tariff fluctuations and geopolitical risks. Enhanced communication and collaboration. Maintaining open lines of communication with logistics partners and suppliers will be critical for adapting to disruptions as they arise. Real-time visibility into shipping schedules and freight availability will allow businesses to react swiftly to changing conditions. Inventory management and front-loading. Firms should consider front-loading their inventory before anticipated disruptions, such as labor strikes or the CNY holiday. This may involve increasing stock levels or shifting to more reliable shipping modes like air freight for urgent needs. Investment in technology and data analytics. Leveraging advanced logistics technologies and data analytics can provide businesses with better forecasting capabilities and insights into potential disruptions, allowing for more strategic decision-making and supply chain management. Conclusion. As mid-2025 approaches, the global shipping and logistics landscape will be characterized by complexity and volatility. The interplay of tariffs, labor unrest, geopolitical tensions, and seasonal disruptions necessitates a strategic approach to supply chain management. By adopting proactive measures and embracing flexibility, businesses can navigate the forthcoming challenges, ensuring continuity and resilience in their operations. The insights gained from Fujian's deployment strategies will be vital in shaping future logistics practices and global trade routes, ultimately influencing how businesses adapt to an ever-evolving landscape.